good enough. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Nathan, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember McPherson.
Here.
Councilmember Biggs.
Here.
Councilmember Rocco.
Here.
Council President Bruce.
Here.
Mayor Steer.
Here. And if you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item is the consent agenda, and Nathan has something he needs to talk about.
Yes,
there.
Mayor, Council, Nathan Stanley, City Clerk, 751 West 4th Street. Resolution R20, 2026. The amount on the resolution itself is the wrong amount. The resolution needs to reflect the amount in the agreement, which is $61,231.25, and that is the amount we received. So if you're gonna pass the consent agenda as published, we just need to make a note that we will adjust that number before signature.
And what was the amount again?
$61,231.25.
And I think it's originally listed like 45,000.
Yeah, the original number on the resolution is $43,125.
Okay.
All right, so consent agenda. Other than that.
And you're good, Councilman Rocco? Yes. Okay. I move we approve the consent agenda as published with the update to Resolution R20-2026, changing the amount to $61,231.25.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded for approval. Is there any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Nathan, would you poll the council?
Councilmember McPherson.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Rocco.
Yes.
Council President Bruce.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Public comment. I didn't have anybody sign up. Is there anybody who wishes to address the council that didn't get a chance to sign in? All right, seeing none. That takes us to external reports. This is for Dana Hannes. He is leaving our Planning and Zoning Commission and has been doing that for 20 years. And we certainly appreciate your dedication and your stick-to-itiveness on that. That's a job that is often tough to deal with. So thank you for that. We've got a plaque for you if you want to come up. "20 years and you get this." Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
20 years on that board, I can't even imagine what that translates into in hours spent looking through agendas and that. So thank you again so very much for that for so long.
But do you have another commission you're eyeing, or?
Not currently.
Okay.
Take a break.
Thank you again.
All right, that takes us to a public hearing. This is going to be consideration to approve resolution R06, 2026, City Parks and Recreation and City Public Property Fee. Chris Wrigley.
Chris Wrigley, Director of Parks and Recreation Fleet Facilities, 371 West Short Line, Cunard, Idaho, 83634. We are proposing an update the fee schedule for our usage of the city parks. The existing park fees are outdated and have been added to over the years, creating confusion on locations, amenities, and rental usages. The new proposed fee schedule spells out the number of tables available in each park, the amount of people the location can accommodate, and a simplified price per 4-hour block. It also spells out clear prices for additional rental fees such as additional trash cans and portable restrooms. The updated schedule will also apply a small field fee for our softball and baseball fields to cover the cost of materials such as diamond dust and other things we need.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Regley at this point? Yeah.
Can you please,
Councilmember Biggs.
can you please discuss the excess of 5% over the last fees collected, and why?
Yeah, we felt that our prices were awfully low, and we looked to surrounding cities as well to kind of get an idea of what everybody else is charging for their fees or for their fields or and parks. We're kind of all across the board. So the numbers we use are actually more from the higher end of what we used to charge for usages in our parks.
So I guess I'll caveat that then, if we're going off what other people want, do we need that increase? Because, you know, we've been increasing things every year, so, I guess what's the justification for that?
The big thing we see is the usage of our parks taking up more man hours after some of these rental events, cleaning up trash, damage to the grass, sprinkler systems, things of that nature.
And what is the total, I guess, increase on average across the board?
Across the price change on all the parks, on an average, I didn't figure in that average, but I'd be happy to get it back to you.
Can you give me a few examples?
As far as like what one park is compared to what we're proposing?
What it used to be and what it's going up to? Yeah.
Well, so the biggest thing is that we're trying to simplify this. So, for example, our East Greenbelt used to be able to, you could rent the south part of that Greenbelt, you could rent the volleyball court, you could rent the east side of the Greenbelt. We would give the option for X amount of tables, which then we would have to transport over there to accommodate the amount of people that they wanted to have there. We're simply trying to simplify it, where if you're going to rent the East Greenbelt, it's spelled out right there how many tables you guys have. If that doesn't accommodate your group, we have other locations that are probably better suited. So the fee structure before varied a lot based on the amount of people, what you're trying to do, and we're just trying to make it more simple. It was even somewhat difficult to sometimes find the right place on our end when people would call wanting to rent a space. So we're just trying to make it out there to the public more user-friendly.
So simplified and user-friendly, 100% get it,
Okay.
love it. But the increase is where that's where my focus is at on this.
Sure, and like I say, by simplifying it, we're hoping that it will also, like I said, eliminate our staff from having to go out there and constantly be picking up trash and doing repairs on the parks.
Well,
Simplifying usually, to me, means that's less work,
Well,
right?
I-
Maybe I'm off base. I'll
I
let
don't
the
have
other
to.
councilmen
Mr.
ask.
Biggs, in your packet as well as the red line version of what the fees were compared to what the new fees are being proposed.
Yep, thank you. I'll let the others ask if they have.
So I think, so we haven't changed those fees for quite some time. With trying to get staff up to the levels they need to be pay-wise, we've had significant increases in that over the years, and trying to make up for some of that, so it's necessary to increase the fees to kind of help cover the staff time. When people want to exclusively use a park, that means other people can't use it, so that means they need to pay their share of what it would cost to actually have that park. If they want it for a whole day, then you divide what it costs to have that park by 365 days, and those costs have significantly increased, and we haven't changed any fees for parks for, once in a while, we would add a new park or a new facility, and those fees would go in, but it didn't change the rest of it, so it's just an effort to get it all cleaned up and make it easier for the public to figure out what it costs and what's available and that type of thing.
Mr. Mayor.
That's the reason for the increase.
Councilman, did you?
Can I have some question? Yeah.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, when was approximately the last time the fees were increased? Approximately?
I don't know that we have since I've been here, other than we've added a few, like the golf disc course, that was added, disc golf course. That was added, and so that came on board as another thing, but, as far as the park fees, I don't remember that we've actually gone through and done any.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I may, I don't have that information as to when it was last updated either, but we did go through here and find a lot of our newer parks
Excuse
were
me,
missing.
Chris, 1 second, sorry to interrupt. Can we keep audience conversations down, please? Thank you.
We did go through and see that some of our newer parks, the Fitzroy Park, the one over off of Strobel as well, they were never listed on some of these outdated pricing.
Thanks, Chris. Chris, I have a few more questions.
Yes,
okay.
yes, go ahead.
Are the fees looking for full recovery from all of your expenses?
No, we're not trying to make money or do anything like that off this. We're just trying to go with the cost of what these things cost to upkeep. The chalk, for example, on the baseball fields, we've in the past always provided that, and we will continue to do that, but we're trying to make a fee that will cover the costs, so
Right.
we can continue to do with that.
A few more questions.
Yes,
Is there a subsidy or a price differential for people maybe on the lowest socioeconomic scale?
No, there's just a flat rent, we're just trying to get flat rate fees on this. And like I said, we didn't increase anything substantially, we're just trying to get it, all on the same page.
One last question, Mayor.
Yeah.
You know what was nice is when Public Works, recently, in the last few months, increased their fees, and they showed a structure of what the fee, they actually showed what the fees are in the neighboring cities. Kind of be nice to be able to see that, just a thought. Thank you.
yes, Mark.
Mark Bybee, City Attorney. Councilman Rocco, in relation to your second question, my recommendation is not to adjust fees on that basis. Fees need to be consistent across the board, charged the same to every user. It's tempting to do that, but just the basis of fees, they need to be tied to the cost of providing the service and need to be applied equally to everyone. And so I just would discourage those types of categorizations because I don't think they're consistent with law.
Okay.
Okay,
I thought I did read there, isn't there a 20% for military and first responder discount? Okay, thank you.
I'm good.
all right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
so I was looking at, and, well, it's a public hearing. I actually don't have questions. I just wanted to chat about it. Thank you. I'll leave you be.
all right, this is a public hearing. I didn't have anybody sign up to testify. Is there anybody who wishes to that didn't get a chance to sign in? All right, seeing none.
I move, any other questions? No, I'm good. I move we close, evidence presentation and move to deliberation. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I guess I can kind of start. If you look at some of these fees, they're actually, some of them are, $20, right? I don't even know that would cover even going out and cleaning up some of the stuff. You put more than one or two guys out there and then we're carrying that over into the budget that we set, right? We're using extra man hours, so I don't see that big of a jump. Obviously, you want to be mindful of it, but some of these are really, really, it's almost like not having a fee at all.
Well, I think that one thing that we find in CUNA at least is that the most people that rent these facilities are generally quite respective and put their trash in the trash cans, and so it's a matter of emptying the trash cans and getting them hauled off, and for the most part. So I don't know that we really have experienced a lot of things that cost us a lot of damage or man hours to take care of, so that's kind of why we keep our prices down.
Yeah, it's still pretty affordable. especially when you look at rental in the area, I think. That's just my thought. I'm good
Anything
with it.
further?
No? What do you, Councilman Biggs, what do you think?
I honestly, I don't have any experience with the other cities and how much they charge and whether, you know, what the deal is. As long as there's no profit, you know, this is a no profit, some gain.
I'd actually like to also ask that we make sure that anyone has already leased the properties, not experienced, that if they've already leased it and agreed to those terms, that we're not going back and saying, hey, you have this listed, but we went up while you were waiting for your time.
Yeah, so, Chris, I think anything that was pre-reserved will be the same fee as it was, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. We have had some rentals and we are honoring the existing fees until this one is put in motion.
So forecasting, I guess this would probably be a Nate thing. The start date for this would be about a month from now-ish, or the effective date. I'm not sure when it-
The effective date would be once it's approved and signed.
Yeah, I think it'll
So
go into
anything
effect.
moving forward, any reservations would go off the new fee schedule.
Okay, thank you.
I'm good. Councilman
Yeah.
Biggs, Councilman Rocco?
Okay.
Okay. I move we approve, resolution R06-2026. Second.
Motion's made and seconded on approval of the resolution. Is there any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. That takes us to item 7A, Resolution R11-2026, National Fitness Campaign Outdoor Fitness Court. Nathan Stanley.
Mayor and Council, Nathan Stanley, City Clerk, 751 West 4th Street. The resolution in front of you is for approval to move forward with the National Fitness Campaign Fitness Court Studio. We applied for a grant in November. We were awarded the grant for $30,000. We haven't signed the award. This is a project for fiscal year '27. We're just working on getting your approval tonight to move forward with the project. The total cost of the project is approximately $400,000. This will be coming out of the park impact fee. This is a National Fitness Campaign. They provide fitness studios. They're outdoor and it's free to the public. The proposed site location would be the dirt lot, which used to be the commercial vehicle parking. So right there on the greenbelt at the end of 2nd Street. And this was in front of the impact fee committee on January 8th, and they recommended approval or moving forward to council. So phase 1 is the approval of the resolution for adoption. The date has been updated to January 21st. It was the 7th. We got an extension to make sure we could get it in front of the impact fee committee and you guys first. And then, like I said, this is a project for '27 to make sure we can get everything budgeted. The plan is to work with parks and facilities to update the landscape around the site area. And yeah, so with that, I can stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, questions for Nathan? Yes, Councilmember Biggs.
The actual grant itself, how much did that provide?
30,000.
Just, okay, 30,000, thank you.
I got a question.
Yes.
Nathan, so does that mean that the city is 370,000? It'll cost the city 370?
Yes, the park impact
Okay.
fees.
Chris, can I direct this question at you? How does this impact the Parks and Rec? If you can just walk us through how that impacts the parks.
Yeah, Chris Regley, Director of Parks and Recreation Fleet Facilities, 371 West Short Line, Kuhn, Idaho, 83634. Where we're talking about putting this is right next to our existing skate park. We have some improvements that we want to see happen over there and make that more of a appealing place for the public. It, like Nate said, it does attach to our green belt with a green belt access. Maybe down the line, we would like to see an extension on the existing skate park and potentially even some restrooms there. We're excited for this project. We already have a lot of the public that utilize Bernie Fisher for group activities such as yoga and stuff. This kind of would give them a place that they could be doing this.
Chris, I don't know if you have the answer to this. Is there future opportunities to add more of these?
I would say there's always an opportunity to add more of these. We're hoping to see how these ones get a matrix on how well the public likes this one. And as CUNA continues to grow, if we see the need, we'd definitely explore it as another option again.
Yeah, and I'll go off of that as well. We want this to promote community health, and with this, why we chose the studio, it is the bigger option. But I don't know if you can see, so I don't have a real good photo, but in this, here's the studio. It has the flat section on the other side. So we have a yoga studio, we have local gyms that can run outdoor classes that are free and available to the public. There's also a QR code that you can scan with your phone and it gives you full workouts. And then with the cover option that we're choosing as well, everything is coated to withstand weather. Like these are all over Michigan and they last a very long time. The covers come down during winter, so you don't have to worry about snowpack or anything like that. And with the coating, when it's real hot outside, the coating allows the aluminum to stay cooler, so no one's getting burnt or anything like that.
I think it's a great idea. I do.
So do you anticipate, I guess, you can use this ad hoc or it can be scheduled? I mean, is it gonna be like?
Yeah,
like a
there's-
softball
it's-
field?
No, there won't be any like reservations to start. If we do get local gyms and the yoga studio, or if people want to reserve the open end part to run classes that are free to the public, then I think we would get together and set up a reservation system. That way people aren't double stacking and we're not having pickleball issues.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Bruce.
Chris, what projects do you see, by approving this and moving forward, will we hold up any of the other projects that Parks would like to do in the next year or two?
No, I don't see this being a foreseeable problem.
What are your thoughts?
Fabulous project.
Yeah.
Good on Nate for getting the grant, and
Yeah.
I'm sure Chris's crew can handle it. I've seen what they did with the ball fields and the new ball fields and other parks, and it'll be great.
Yeah, and Morgan Webb was a big part of this, and she did a lot of work on this with the grant, working with me with Darcy, who's with the National Fitness Campaign to get all this rolling.
Kudos to her too then. Good.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Chris, on the skate park, I know we were looking at upgrading some of the stuff there at the skate park. Have we come to, do we have an idea of what would need to be upgraded there, or what our outlook is on the skate park itself?
So our current skate park is a advanced skate park. So what we would need is something for more intermediate, moderate options for different class riders. We are looking into getting some bids and some ideas, some numbers put together as far as what our options are. Again, that would obviously be 27 or later, but we are trying to do some digging on that.
Thank you. Anything
I'm
else?
good.
You someone have a motion? You want me to? You go ahead.
I make move, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Matt.
Let the new guy do it.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was.
Let's put him on the spot here.
Okay, well, I motion, let me get the resolution, right? Give me a second.
11/20/26.
I motion that we approve, resolution R 11/2026.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that motion?
You know, it requires, if we approve this, we're all gonna have to go out and use it.
I'm sick that day.
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries. Project approvals regarding length of time from approval to starting the project. Chris Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is something that came up with Councilman Laraway that we just wanted to maybe have a conversation about as a whole, what we would like to see, and obviously with legal as well, about what our legal options are for projects that are, may have been approved multiple years ago that fit the needs of the community then, but now when they come up, we've expanded so much, we have so much going on that they don't necessarily fit, but legally, we're kind of bound to move them forward. Maybe I can get Mark's input on it, on his thoughts.
We did kind of start talking about this, and there's some caveats that will pertain to this, and Mark can maybe get into that, but whether we can do that through a development agreement that is signed upon the time of rezone, or however that may work, but I'm not sure that anybody else is really actually doing it, so.
Well, I know that we did update, I thought we had started putting a timeline on approvals already on new ones.
We did, as far as final plats and that type of thing, but not actual zoning, so.
Okay.
Mark?
Yeah, Mark Bybee, City Attorney. Councilman Bruce, when you, the way you phrased it, when you say project, that's what part of the thing that makes this challenging, because I know we often talk about land use proposals as projects, but there's multiple components to
Right.
what it takes to get it approved. And so if we're looking at, expirations on certain parts of it, I think that's kind of the question, is can there be like an expiration to an approval? It's like, my question back to you is, well, what approval? For a zoning, my inclination, like a zoning approval, my inclination is no, just not because I've researched that, but because I have never seen a zoning code change that would revert to a prior zone just based on no development on the parcel. So,
My thought is that we, when we make these approvals, we're looking at it's more of this fits the community now, right? And as we go on multiple years, maybe a decade, now all of a sudden we have thousands of houses that are outstanding, and we have another development that has another 1,000 homes that we can't service, but yet we're still handcuffed into approving it. And I get what you're saying, but what are our options to go back and say do we have any options to bring those forward? Anything that's outstanding past 10 years or so, or moving forward, can we say, if you hold this property, maybe it doesn't revert back in zoning, maybe it starts over with.
well, I'm focused.
And I'm just having the conversation.
Yeah.
I just need to know what.
And I'm not trying to shut it down, so don't take it that way. But it's also, for me, it's important, what are we putting the restriction on? Because is it is it a plat potentially expiring? And a preliminary plat, that's not unusual to have a preliminary plat approval expire after some period of time of inactivity. And that's often why you see preliminary plats phased, because they'll bring the final plat part of it in phases and, do 40 houses here, 100 houses here. Once you get to the final plat, no, that you couldn't cancel an approved final plat, because that's actually changed the legal parcels. But could there be expirations associated with preliminary plats that there's no action on? Potentially, yes. I have seen, and that's why you actually see these requests for extensions at times. With a development agreement, if there's a development agreement that has a very broad proposal, I think you could, within the terms of the DA itself, have some type of expiration, or basically that after some period of time, the city has the right to bring it for a decision for modification or revocation. I think those types of things certainly could be negotiated into a development agreement. So when you say project, if we could change that to project to, could we do this with a plat? Could we do this with a DA? I'm more comfortable with that. Could we do it with zoning? I have a lot of reservations about that, and I'd have
You're
to
a
do
good
some
lawyer.
research, but
You can work it out.
yeah, that one causes me some pause, but it just because I don't know, there's an ordinance change with a zone, like you're actually technically changing your ordinance because you're changing your map.
Right.
And so,
And maybe that is the plat that would work best for this. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, but I just don't wanna, lock a future council into the same position that we were in December. And then also, I'd like to find out what maybe has been platted that we are not looking at or hasn't been brought forward, and maybe this is a Doug question. Can you give us a list of those that have been platted that maybe haven't come forward within multiple years, maybe close to 5 or longer, so that when we're making these decisions, we can factor those into our land use decisions?
Yep. For the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director, 751 West 4th Street. So I think what may be a little bit easier to demonstrate is we have a working map that shows the legal boundaries of development agreements. I think that's more of what you're asking for. Like once these subdivision preliminary plats record, they could be phased out over 13 phases. So
Yeah.
we have things that were approved in 2008 that are still platting out through final phases, and Mark sort of alluded to that earlier. That's a little trickier, but what we have more control over is the development agreements that have an associated concept plan or approved site plan for a development that may have taken no action. We've started going back through all of those, and this sort of kicked off with that Osprey Ridge development agreement, realizing what was in it back from 2008 and kind of retroactively going back. We're mapping them all.
Okay.
We're seeing what the language says and like what has been acted upon and what hasn't.
And I just think that would be good for council to have those, those understanding of those projects are outstanding. I know Mark doesn't like project, but, those agreements are outstanding.
Yeah, and that's just
And
that's a
so-
document that we could prepare for a future packet or a director's report, however you'd prefer.
Okay. Yeah, you
And
guys,
so I think what we'll do is we'll continue looking into this and see what our options are, because I don't know legally what we can and can't do. Back when they built that wastewater treatment plant, they annexed and zoned a lot of
Yeah.
property. And that was kind of done blanketly without development agreements, and so, trying to get through all that and figure out what those look like and what options council has in that case is, I think it's just gonna take some more research and digging through that, so we'll work on that some more and then.
and I
get
think
back
too,
to
even if we get to the point where I'm at, is that, we've made these decisions around the community, and they've put us in these seats to make sure that these projects don't come in and hammer their way of life and things that they're doing that are years and years old. And if they were blanket approved like that with,
Right.
out here where there's nothing but farmland, the times have changed, so that was
Certainly.
that was my thought process. You guys can speak to that.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Maybe you can just
Yes.
educate me. So on a new development agreement, is there something that we could, again, speaking out of ignorance, is there something we can do on a new development agreement that stops it from being long-term?
Well, and I think, so that's what we're gonna have to research a little more, because I don't think there's much we can do with zoning, but possibly there's something we can do with the actual development itself and, being able to lock things in as far as putting a time limit on that type of thing. So it's just gonna take some more research to figure out what our options actually are.
And I think we did craft some language like that to already start doing that, correct?
Yeah, so starting around late 2024, after the code update occurred, we added a new clause in our development agreements to be a little bit more explicit about what defaulting on the development agreement looks like, and that's just failure of a developer or owner to faithfully comply with the terms and conditions of a DA. So what something like that would look like if a preliminary plat were to expire or they wanted to change a level of use within the development agreement, then the city could determine that we viewed that as a default on the DA, and then we could bring forward a hearing to terminate said development agreement.
Thank you.
Yep.
I guess my only thing on this is you have a situation like we do now. It's pretty common, something gets annexed and then it sits there, and now you have holes throughout the city in certain places. Some that have development agreements, or some that had even gone through the planning process. Houses and things that were planned, and then we have, we're the ones holding the bag when we're trying to get ready, work on these new projects, or sorry, I shouldn't call it projects, these new developments, and they're ready to go. I mean, they're ready to go tomorrow, and we didn't have those other things in mind, like you know, a massive project that had been approved in 2008,
Yeah.
like we had, so.
Well, I think Doug, Doug putting those onto the same map that we can view now, updating them all as far back as they can, so that we can go to that map and look and say, hey, these are,
I know his GIS is pretty amazing. I don't break it, I guess that's a question that we'll just have to get in with, him a little more on each one of those. What does it really mean on each one of those, zones?
that's all I had on that one, Mr. Mayor.
I was just gonna offer, this isn't necessarily in response to any specific comment, it's just, somebody said something that made me think on some of these DAs, like Osprey Ridge, for example, there's terms in it that have to do with some degree of consideration, some money that was paid by these developers to the city back in, what is it, like '08 that I think that, and so those types of, when you see that, like, payment that was made, it does cause me concern, okay, if we're going to now go back and amend and revoke, like, my recollection of that DA, it's been probably about a year since I've read it, but that there's this, it wasn't clearly dealt with, like, okay, if that was paid, now what? If this gets terminated and modified later, now what? And so just, issues like that are certainly, if we're gonna look at and revisit them, I'm not saying we can't, but we have to kind of confront those and figure out what does it mean for that payment if it was or wasn't made.
I would
Because-
think we'd refund it.
I don't know if we would, like, right? And why, like, especially 20 years
Oh,
years
yeah,
after the
that
fact, right?
one,
And
yeah.
so it's like, something, it's more, I guess, kind of a talking point for when we're looking at DAs as staffs, like, if there is gonna be some exchange, and then there's some failure to perform on their part for a decade, 2 decades,
Do they forfeit?
what does
it?
that mean? Yeah, do we have any obligation to refund? I'd certainly like to specify, no, we don't. Like, there's some expectation you follow through, and if you don't, you may be forfeiting these funds. I think similar things can be done, or that are done with, like these, the bonds, the performance bonds, and kind of similar type idea, because I just don't want it to be, oh my gosh, now you didn't act, and now we're looking to modify the DA, which the city has the right to under law, that we can bring we can bring it forward for public hearing and consider modifying the DA, but then all of a sudden be like, well, now you owe us I think it was 1.7 million that was paid in that DA for something, I can't remember what, and it's like, now they're gonna say we have to refund it back, and it's even more complicated, because it's like, well, the person who paid that, they don't own it anymore, and so now it's some new landowner and they're receiving it. There's just oddities to it that I think when you have that type of consideration happening at the time it's entered, that the city needs to be deliberate on what happens if there is a failure to perform. Those funds were paid, what then? To clarify it, so when it comes forward for a possible modification, we know what's gonna happen regarding those funds.
And
Well, some of the properties that were annexed back at the formation of the local improvement district, some of those didn't even have DAs.
Yeah.
And so, do we have an option, since there is no DA, to come back on that somehow? I think maybe. I think there's gonna be several different things we're gonna have to look at to figure out what our options actually are, so.
Thank you.
that was gonna be my question. So
Yeah.
those, taking the DAs out of it, we have all this annexed land, what can we do?
But
Doug Hanson, Planning and Zoning Director. Traditionally speaking, outside of a development agreement, historically, it's just been that zoning runs with the land. Zoning isn't something that expires.
Right, on the zoning, yes. Okay, we'll continue to research that and see where we can get with this so that we can
Yep, sounds good.
move on. I mean, I don't know,
Yeah,
I don't know where we're gonna end up with it, but we did start talking about it immediately after that last action, because that was a little disturbing, so.
Yeah, well, and I just, wanted, a couple of folks had mentioned it, so they, just to
Yeah,
have the
sure.
conversation, so, and that way the community can watch it as well, the conversation that we had, so.
Councilman Biggs, I just want to clarify, were you asking a question about like undoing annexations? I was not sure I
Well,
understood.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's, if someone goes and annexes a piece of land and they don't intend to do anything with it, I mean, it follows a comprehensive, city plan. Is there any, again, I'm trying to prevent these holes, from being all over the city, I guess, with potentially annexed property and we don't do anything with it, you know, outside of the DAs.
From a straight legal perspective, like annexations, like the process of bringing it into the city is pretty clearly dealt with in state code, and there's actually a recent modification that even contemplates there's like 2 categories of annexation right now, which is your typical ones that you guys see, which is applicant initiated. And then there's a more robust and like complicated process if the city decides to initiate it. But that's on so the city says, we see land and we want to bring it into our boundaries. There is a process for that, but it's much more involved, and that legislation, in my perspective, appears to be in response to the Avamore annexation that happened in the city of Eagle, which was, I don't know why the ins and outs of it, I just know it was controversial. I don't have the ins and outs as to why. But de-annexation was what you're talking about, and there's not good, clear processes on it. There's like one statute that talks about that you can, like the city could remove from its jurisdiction, you know, annexed land, but it doesn't give clear on processes, and it's a pretty significant legal impact to the person, you know, the owner potentially. And so at the very least, I'd say there have to be a public hearing process to give that person an opportunity to be heard on it. But even, you know, getting out of the specific legalities there, I'd also say, well, if it's annexed and it's undeveloped, you know, if it's just annexed and zoned as ag, is that really problematic for the city to have that in there? Because it's just undeveloped land that's generating limited tax revenue, because it's, you know, agricultural land tends to have pretty low tax rates on it. But is there, I guess practically speaking, is there a motive for pulling it out?
I'll give you an example, the one that's on my mind. What's the project called? The sports thing?
True Grit?
True Grit.
Mm-hmm.
So we passed that. It was zone C1, I think. But it was also part, not residential, but mixed. Was it mixed use, Doug?
Commercial
No.
residential.
Was it all C1?
For the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director, it is just zone C2, that
C2.
parcel.
C2. Okay. So hypothetically speaking, right now it's just sitting there zoned, and it could be for a very long time because they are still trying to get the funding for that project, and then they don't get it or something like that. Then what happens, kind of a thing? We just wait for them to put it up for sale.
Yeah, and that's kind of getting to Chris or Councilman Bruce's, I think, original question is like going and doing a zoning change.
Yep.
And I don't really want to spout off concepts and ideas because they could be completely legally not doable. But I think through ways that, you know, to bring it back for a zoning consideration after being stale. Yeah, I could set up processes, but the question I have right now is the legality of those processes. That one, though, I will say, since the city owns it, and I don't know what the
Part of it, right?
yeah,
The middle
part of
part.
it,
20
yeah.
acres.
The middle
There's
part,
20
yeah.
acres the city owns. That's your land, and obviously something you clearly have seen as an applicant or a landowner can always come and reapply for a zoning change. Like whether they get it's a question, but and so as the owner of that land, as the city owning it, you could reinitiate an application and decide to rezone it yourselves.
Thank you, Mark and Doug.
Thank you.
Okay. And then traffic studies within the city on projects around the subject property for hearing. That's Chris Bruce
Yeah.
also.
So, and this one, Councilman Rocco actually asked me about this. You know, the traffic studies that we get are kind of around the development, but yet we're having impacts from other developments that we're not necessarily looking at. He wanted to know, you know, do we have a list of either projects that are, you know, maybe ACHD's list of projects and where they're at that could be put in the packet, and or is a traffic study for the city something that we could look at? And I don't know if that's the case. We just want to know what the impacts on all the developments that have already been approved, because it seems like as these development projects come through, we're continuing to add on to the issue of traffic, but not necessarily. We're only looking at one study that's around the project. So I don't know if you can speak to that, but.
For the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director. So when I threw in a traffic impact study and executive summary into the packet just as an example. Those are done by the developer or applicant for a particular project, but these factor in numbers on all of the surrounding areas. So they have to look at all of the intersection improvements, all of the roadway improvements that they would need to make in order to mitigate the impact of their development. But while they're looking at it a lens of however large it may be, that's deemed by ITD and ACHD based off of traffic standards, traffic engineering standards, traffic counts, all of those things. ITD and ACHD is still taking into account every single approved project and every project currently under review that they have on the development as well. So they have to, the applicant will prepare this TIS, but ACHD and ITD still have to accept the TIS, and until a traffic impact study is accepted, staff won't even bring forward an application for a public hearing to the Planning and Zoning Commission for them to make a recommendation to you for a decision. So
Oh, and then I think too, another thing is giving us the list of, ACHD's top list of improvements for the area, because we've had several times, like out by the golf course, where the upgrades there are at the top of the list, and then they're gone.
mm-hmm.
But yet we've also made decisions, so we want to kind of track those as, hey, are these projects still to be upgraded around this development, still even on the list? If so, how far out are they? Or have they now been removed from the list? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And so that's basically what it would be on ACHD and ITD's long-range transportation plans. So those things are available, but a lot of these other projects are completely development-driven. So those aren't things that necessarily we would even see until these properties develop. But
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I would like to see their list of road improvements and in with our packet somewhere to say, hey, these are ACHD's and ITD's top list of road improvements.
Mhm.
We can say, okay, we've looked at this traffic study. Yes, it'll work. These intersections that may be way over here are already on their list. It looks like something we can do. Or, hey, these intersections now are completely gone off their important list. How are these developments going to impact that? And it's as easy as maybe just printing it and adding it to the
yeah,
the
so
packet.
so I don't know if there's necessarily a perfect list as you're describing now. There are online tools that ACHD actually has where you can pull it up on their website, and it will show every single programmed project that's within their 5-year plan that has at the very least a design year. That's probably your best bet, because that sort of paints a picture of, in the next 5 years, this project will either be designed, engineered, or be constructed.
Yeah.
So that's something that we could definitely share. It would be a little bit more difficult to go through every single project
Well,
and get a list of all of these perceived improvements, because we also don't know if some of these other projects that could be impacted are even going to be approved.
I think what you said with their approved, the ones that are already on the top
Yeah.
of their list and been approved to be done. So
Okay.
it just helps us have a better view of what's actually happening in the city and the surrounding areas, at least for me. And I think that's what you were.
Right, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So is it unreasonable, Doug, to actually have you put together a concise report for the packet for us, coming from staff?
I can share, so I could share the link to the mapping tool. I could sort of see what that report looks like. I just don't know if us as just being the planners could prepare a more informative report than that traffic impact summary already has, the TIS executive summary, because that will actually provide the current conditions of all of the roadways that are affected by a development, and also what would need to be done in order to have them mitigated. We could probably provide something that's just more concise than that. We take out some of the verbiage.
Well, and if I can speak, I think
Yeah.
they're providing a lot of data, which is great. But when we say, oh, ACHD it's on their list of approved projects to do, we just want to know that the roads around it are still on their radar. So that we're not approving a project and then they have no inkling that they're going to be doing this in 10, 20, 30 years. The report gives us a lot of info, but it doesn't give us some of the bigger.
Yeah, I guess the difficulty is, short of major intersection improvements in some of the arterial roadways, ACHD isn't doing the improvements, the developers are. But we can definitely nail down which intersections and which arterial roadways are slated for improvements in the next 5 years and possibly further out than that.
But the one thing that we do see is the ACHD's 5-year plan, and I think that's going to come before you next month?
That should be before you the second meeting in February. We'll share the priority projects that staff has garnered for fiscal year, or not fiscal year, I'm sorry, just year 27 through
32, yeah, I had to do some math there. So we'll have that list for you to look at, and then it'll come before you just to view as a business item, and then the next meeting as an actual action item to take action on, depending on the changes you would like to see from the first meeting.
Council President Bruce, on that last meeting we had in December, you even flushed out that, I forget what the rating is, but it was basically, the ACHD rating was unsafe or whatever,
Well,
that was a numerical, or was
So
it?
ACHD will give a better than E, which is when you look at that term, it still says unstable.
Okay,
Well, better than E, I don't even think is a rating, just E, but it says better than E. Which in my thought process there may be okay for Boise or Meridian, but better than E means that we're sitting in traffic out here for days on end, it feels like. And so it's just good to see those other, the projects that they have in their timeline out. Maybe that's not encompassed in that report, so we can make those decisions.
so if we're looking at a particular development that's rated unstable, do we want to also look out beyond that to see if there's other existing developments going on that also have a rating of possibly unstable?
I have Doug, can we update our city to change the acceptable level within our city? From what ACHD has, if they have a better than E, which is, E is unstable, if you look at the rating system, and we say, hey, well, that's okay for ACHD, but we'd like to layer, add something, maybe a D.
I think it's probably always a possibility that we could explore. The difficulty is they're traffic engineers and traffic experts. We're not, and we don't have right of way authority. They have jurisdiction over the right of way.
Which
But-
I think also presents a problem for us because what we see today that's on an ACHD list might get pulled off of that list for something they decide's a bigger priority somewhere else.
Well,
So, so that's the problem with us not controlling our own roads is being able to say we want everything at a D or better, but we don't have that jurisdiction to do that, so. Hopefully we can change that in the next year or two.
Yeah, I just think it leaves us kind of, if you look at the traffic impact is actually unstable, they'll say, oh, well, you got plenty of, that's at peak and you got plenty of flow. Well, come drive through town at rush hour and tell me how much flow we have out here.
Right.
Which changes not only the quality of life, impact on vehicles, car insurance costs. So, it's just stuff that I think our community's asking about. So,
Yeah, I mean, you have to make this assumption, right? So they're in CUNA, there's developments going on, but then you have South Meridian, and I'm sure, Doug, that, they're the experts, they're the traffic experts, but you have a Costco, you have other potential developments and large commercial going on in Meridian. I'm assuming that when they're looking at something that's on Hubbard, that they are also taking into consideration those impacts in the traffic flow to CUNA?
So you mentioned Costco. Costco was a particular project where the influence of that development is so large that the owner of that project, that parcel, they're actually going to be making improvements on ITD State Highway all the way into CUNA, so outside of Meridian's area of city impact and into ours. So that is one benefit of ACHD is they're looking at the entire county interchangeably. It's not just each jurisdiction looking at what they're doing in hopes that everybody else is sort of in line with their plans. We're looking at this through one lens with their level of service planning thresholds that they hold everybody accountable to. I'm not going to say that always works the best, but it's just
Yeah.
that's a benefit is
well, and I know,
the standard is the same.
what I was thinking is that if you look at Eagle and how long it takes to get to the highway, they're trying to mimic that same thing here in CUNA, and it's gonna be a nightmare, for all of our residents who leave to go to work every day, to fight that traffic into Boise. So, maybe there's some way we can have more input on what they do so we're not, another Eagle Road, where they don't put roundabouts or four-way, So, I just thought it'd be good to have this conversation about traffic. That way, the more we know, the better decisions we can make.
Right.
Yeah, Doug, what's frustrating is like, say, for example, they came out with all the Meridian developments that there's gonna be commercial and private for this coming year, and like on Lake Hazel and Locust, there's a massive residential going on there. But that, again, this affects CUNA, right? Because these people are gonna flow out, they're gonna probably flow out to Meridian. It just feels frustrating to me that just more, it's not really safe anymore. That's what, just my emotional comment, you know?
That's all I had.
This isn't directly responsive, but I think relevant. Mayor, if you're okay if I give just a little context on ACHD. I think just worth knowing and understanding as a council member, ACHD is a weird legal entity compared to like what you'd see really anywhere in the country. And it's because its jurisdiction actually reaches into the cities. It's not uncommon that you might have a highway district that covers the whole county, but it's unincorporated county. But you look at Canyon County, our neighbor, right?
Yeah.
I think there's four highway districts. Their jurisdiction, they run into each other, but it also runs into the cities. The cities have jurisdiction over their streets. And so I just offer that to you because it's like you try and look at other things. I think it's helpful to understand that we're dealing in a weird climate. And I don't know the reasons why and how ACHD became this countywide entity with jurisdiction within the cities, but it's a very unique model. It's something that like studies are done on and published about out there because it's unique, it's strange, and I think it presents unique challenges. And so it's just something that, as being policy makers and decision makers for a city, I think it's useful understanding that you're dealing kind of in a different arena than what you might see elsewhere.
Good.
That's all I had.
We'll see what we can figure out there too.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is all we had on the agenda tonight. Is there any council discussion or announcements? Work on the new chambers is coming right along. They actually have most of the roof sealed up, and we're looking forward to getting that done so we can get the dirt out of the parking lot and open that back up, so.
Will we have a little bit more desk room at the new council?
I told them to make sure whatever they do to make sure that desk is a little less tight.
Not for the newest guy.
Yeah,
In the corner.
we'll all be sitting on three-legged stools.
Yeah.
Like the old days.
All right, well then, with that, meeting is adjourned.